Hello everyone, I'd like to welcome you back to another episode of Stamp Set Sunday, where we feature one stamp set to make 5 projects. This is Memes Artful Inspiration, and my name is Brenda LaPataglia, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Tonight's featured stamp set is Over the Rainbow. I was reminded of my eldest daughter's favorite movie. Can you guess what that is? The Wizard of Oz. She absolutely loves that movie. That, along with The Little Mermaid and Pretty Women. Every time I see the stamp set, I want to sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. There's lots of projects that you can do with this card. We limited it to 5, so you can see that there's great value in purchasing just one stamp set. The first card we made today is your typical rainbow. The colors we're using for all of these cards are the Real Red, our Tangerine Tango, the Crushed Curry, Cucumber Crush, Pacific Point, Night of Navy, and then the Elegant Eggplant. We also used our Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and that we stamped our hearts on this card and our sentiment. I'll give you all the measurements for all of the cards later in the video when I show you how to make them. Second, we created our own background using one of the stamps, one of these grunge stamps. We just made our own background paper. So you only have 2 colors of cardstock on this. You have the Elegant Eggplant and the Whisper White. And you can see with minimal supplies you can make a beautiful card. We used our layering thinlet dies, or framelits, to create the pop-ups. We used different sizes of that in the 3/4 inch circle punch to place this on here, and we'll show you all that in a little bit. Next, we did use some designer series paper. We used the Night of Navy cardstock. We stamped the rainbow stamp, and again using I think we used this grunge stamp to color in. I'll tell you, my grandson, he wasn't too happy that I didn't color in the whole letter. He felt that I should color in the whole letter, and I liked the color out of the lines, and I liked this look. And then of course we stamped the sentiment there. And on this card, which I don't usually do, I stamped a rainbow in the middle of the card. Next, I used watercolor paper, some water, and our Wink of Stella glitter marker, glitter brush. And I created my own background again using the watercolor paper, and we're going to show you how to do this later on in the video. And I liked the torn edge look as opposed to everything having a straight edge. I liked the organic feel of this. We put some sequin. All right, and our last card, this was kind of fun to make. This designer series paper is the Irresistibly Floral. It comes all white, and you can color it any background and buff it, and the white, the resist, shows through. So you can make these any color you want to match any project that you want. And there's several sheets in this pack. We used the Blossom Builder punch, and we made our own flowers. Here's a couple of extra ones we made. You can see, you just make them different ways. These have the white pearls in them, and on this we used the rhinestones. We added a couple of rhinestones in there. We used our doily, delicate doily paper. And all of these products can be found in the 2016-2017 annual catalog. I'll show you on page 54 is the rainbow stamp set. And I realize this is Stamp Set Sunday where we only use one stamp set. But look how this stamp set coordinates with these umbrellas. And each of these have thinlets as well, or framelets that cut out these pieces for you, little raindrops. And we'll do a Stamp Set Sunday just on that set another time. If you are interested in receiving a catalog, just send me a note to brenda.labataglia@gmail.com and I will be happy to send one to you. Out in just a little while. It doesn't really go live until September 1st, but I received my sneak peek of a catalog for our holidays. And I can't show you any images yet, so here's a little sneak peek. All right, so I am going to be right back with all of the instructional pieces of the video to show you how to make the cards. Be right back. Alright, so the card size for the rainbow card, card number 1, is 5 1/4 by 4 1/4. The real red matte size is 5 1/4 by 4, and the image layer is 4 3/4 by 3 1/4. This is the layer that we stamp the image on using the swoosh image on the stamp set, using the colors Real Red, Tangerine Tango, Crushed Curry, Cucumber Crush, Pacific Point, Night of Navy, and Elegant Eggplant. We also use the Memento Black Tuxedo to stamp the heart and the image. You will adhere the image layer to the Real Red cardstock that creates your matte layer using the snail adhesive, and then again using the snail adhesive, simply adhere all of that to the card base. If you recall from the first video that we did for Stamp Set Sunday, I love glitter. It just adds some shimmer and shine to your cards. So I used the Wink of Stella clear glitter brush and applied the glitter to the hearts and the rainbow. And that is card number 1. Alright, so for card number 2, this is the card we created our own background using one of the grunge images from the stamp set. The ink color we're using is the Elegant Eggplant. It's a beautiful purple color, so it does look a little blue on your screen. It does on mine. To create the background color, you simply dip the image into the Elegant Eggplant. Stamp it full color, and then stamp twice more, and you reduce the value of the color, and it creates this beautiful background. Don't worry so much about coloring all of the white. Leave some white. It adds dimension and character to your background. because we're only using the Whisper White and the Elegant Eggplant colors on this card, leaving some white on that background color adds texture and dimension and just pulls the whole card all together. Now that we're done with that, you're going to want to use the layering squares framelits. We use the 2 3/4 scallop square, the 2-inch scallop square, and the 1 3/8 straight square. The 2 3/4 scallop square, you'll cut the Whisper White, applying Stampin' dimensionals to the backs to create layers. With the 2-inch scallop square, you'll cut out 2 squares using the Elegant Eggplant cardstock. You will want to stamp your sentiment before using the 1 3/8 straight square to cut that out. You'll see here I used the good luck sentiment and then cut that out on an angle. Again, it just adds a little extra pop, a little extra pizzazz to your card. And of course I wasn't done yet. I needed some color, so I used our real red, stamped a heart, cut it out with the 3/4 inch circle punch, and adhered it using a Stampin' dimensional. And there you have card 2. Okay, so card number 3, the base layer is 5.5 by 4 1/4. This is cut from Night of Navy cardstock. The mat is a 5 1/4 by 4 inch piece cut from the Floral Boutique Designer Series paper. The image layer is cut from a 4 1/4 and 2 1/4 piece of Whisper White cardstock. Using your Memento Black Tuxedo ink, stamp the sentiment rainbow, and then using one of the grunge images from the stamp set, use all of the colors in the rainbow. Again, these colors are Real Red, Tangerine Tango, Crushed Curry, Cucumber Crush, Pacific Point, Night of Navy, and Elegant Eggplant. While I have a minute, I'd like to point out to you that all of our stamp ink colors use the same letter in the first and second words, like Crushed Curry and Cucumber Crush, Pacific Point, Night of Navy. Even when we have our in colors, they use that same pattern. It's very fun. Alright, so I used the Night of Navy Stampin' ink and stamped the sentiment. And because I didn't have the Stampin' Write markers, in a little bit you'll see that I added 3 dots because that sentiment isn't quite finished. So I added the 3 dots and added the sentiment rainbow to the inside of the card. So you see here I am just cutting the cardstock down, the image layer, and it ends up being, again, 4 1/4 by 2 1/4. You'll apply the Designer Series paper using Stampin' Dimensionals. The Designer Series paper is adhered using the snail adhesive, and then the image layer will be adhered using the Stampin' Dimensionals. You'll see again that I apply the Wink of Stella glitter. Now I didn't apply it on the color, I applied it on the letters within the confines of each of the letters. The more you watch my videos, you'll realize that as often as I can. Okay, so in this next card, we do use the Stampin' Up! Watercolor paper, and you are going to want to spritz the watercolor paper and just use a paintbrush and smooth that water around on the watercolor paper. And you'll want to leave the edges of the card dry. That way the watercolor, when you apply the ink to the water, it won't run off the card. So to apply the ink to the watercolor paper, I actually use the Wink of Stella clear glitter brush. And you see here I'm just applying some water. It wasn't quite wet enough at first application of the ink using the Wink of Stella brush. But once you have just the right amount of water on there, the ink applies very nicely. Every now and again I go in and just kind of move the water around using just a plain paintbrush, nothing fancy. And to get the ink to the top, the lid of the Stampin' pad, you just close them and just kind of give them a squish, and it'll apply some ink to that lid. And it stays wet, even if you don't use all of the ink in the lids. It'll stay wet for our next application. I want to take just a moment to invite you over to my blog at memesartfulinspirations.com. There you will find the PDF of all of the instructions that I am providing you here. You know, in a video it can get a little busy and hard to keep up with, so I have provided a PDF with pictures and all of the instructions and sizes for the card. I'm always fascinated by the watercolor look and feel. And I am no artist, but I want to learn how to do watercolor. And so far this is the closest I am brave enough to adventure into. When the ink starts to dry, it does fade a little bit. It's not as vibrant as you see here on the video. Later, when you see the card again, you'll notice that they soften, the color softens. It's one of the things that I like about a watercolor. It softens. You saw that I just applied a little bit more of the crushed curry and the cucumber crush. We're just going to tear the edges. The watercolor cardstock is a heavy cardstock. Good quality paper. I don't know if you can tell there, but the watercolor does not go through to the back side. We have a new product. They're the foam adhesive strips. Rather than using all of the tiny Stampin' Dimensionals, this made a perfect way to adhere the image layer to the cardstock. The cardstock layer, we use the crushed curry. And if I didn't say so earlier, it is 5.5 by 4 1/4. For the sentiment, I used the Elegant Eggplant Stampin' Ink. Stamped the "You Are the Gold" at the end of the rainbow sentiment. And then I apply the same tearing to the sentiment layer. Couldn't have a straight edge on the sentiment layer while the watercolor paper was torn and organic. I did use the Stampin' Dimensionals to adhere the sentiment to the watercolor paper layer. Using the fine tip glue pen, I'm going to apply sequins. The card is beautiful without them, but I did have them in my stash. They are a Stampin' Up! Product. They came as a part of a kit, these colors. I had them laying around, so I put them to good use. If you have things in your stash, pull them out, use them. And there you have card 4. Okay, card number 5. We are going to use the Irresistibly Floral Designer Series paper. The size that we are using is 5 1/4 by 4. We are going to adhere it to the card base using the Pacific Point. Wanted to say that and lost it. So Pacific Point cardstock. That's 5 1/2 by 4 1/4. Alright, so using the Stampin' Sponge, you are going to apply in rainbow order Roy G. Biv. Using the sponges. So that you don't have to use too many sponges. You could use the sponge in the same color family. And because I only had one sponge, I also was using some makeup sponges. So if you have some of those in your stash, they work perfectly well. As they get dirty and you want to use them, you can just cut off the edges. Same thing with the Stampin' Sponge. I was using one sponge for the red and the orange, one for the yellow, one for the green, then I think I used one for the blue and the elegant eggplant. And then you're just going to buff that off. And then the white resist is left to be, it's beautiful, the resist that's on these papers. You can't go wrong with getting a stack of these. Alright, so then using the Blossom Builder Punch, using the Festive Birthday Designer Series paper, you're going to punch out several of the punch images so that you can make multiple flowers. Just using the bone folder, and I'm giving each of the petals a curl. I use the Tombow glue, Stampin' Up's Tombow glue, to attach the flower petals. You'll see there that I pre-did some so that I didn't have to bore you watching me put flowers together, but I did want to show you how to do one. So there's a few, and then the insides of the flowers, you'll see that I cut some out of the Pacific Point and the crushed curry color to add some fun color to the flowers. So a little story. My grandmother was so good in the garden, and I have a terrible brown thumb. I can't keep any plant alive. And in her honor, I put flowers on quite a number of my projects. It's the only way that I can have pretty flowers because I can't grow them. I used to putter in the yard with her, but I didn't learn by osmosis how to make plants grow and stay alive. I'm pretty sure she's laughing at me right now. I would love it if you could give my video a thumbs up or subscribe if you haven't already. My goal is to provide you a video every Sunday to show you one stamp set to make 5 projects. My goal is to show the cost-conscious crafter that you don't need to purchase all of the supplies we have available, that if you can afford one stamp set and a couple of different colors of cardstock, you too can make beautiful, beautiful projects that your family and friends will love to receive for their birthday, anniversaries, graduations, and even thank yous, or sometimes you just want to say hello to someone. And receiving a handmade card from you means so much to folks who receive it. My daughters are especially fond of cards that are easily displayed, like easel cards and pop-up cards and things like that. And I will show you in some of our videos how to make some of those. So now that we have some of our flowers completed, we will assemble the card. We use the delicate doily as part of the background, adhering the designer series paper that we colored using the snail adhesive. And I use snail adhesive as well to apply the doily. And then I use the Tombow glue to adhere all of the flowers. And there you see I'm just fluffing them up. Flowers are fluffy. So I just enhance some of the curve in the petals. And I'll tell you, I don't typically have a plan when I'm working things out. I kind of go with the flow. I kind of let the card lead me. So you see here, I was trying to decide where it should go. Still need a little bit more, so I applied more rhinestones to the designer series paper. Just add a little bit more. You don't have to. You don't have to. The card is still beautiful without it, but because I have them in my stash, I added them. But you certainly don't need to. There's card 5. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining me. I would love it if you gave me a thumbs up and joined me on my blog. Thank you.